There is a lot of talk about the changing consumers' behaviors nowadays, the content that we take, the social media, the internet, and everything. So the product that we develop today may not be relevant tomorrow. So how do you feel the entrepreneurs need to cope up with this problem and stay relevant in the market?
Thank you, Vignesh. And I think one of the ways to do it, like I talked in my presentation, is to stay connected. And I think, one of the important things that if you look at successful entrepreneurs, that even after their businesses have grown very large, they still find a method to reach out and talk to a certain set of customers on an ongoing basis. And I think that is where the differentiation lies. So the more connected you are, the more conversations you are having with your target audience, with your customers, the better you're going to be aware of what's going on in the market. The second piece is to watch your competition, because sometimes you may miss something, but your competition will point out to you saying that, oh, you seem to have missed and they're doing something in that space. And third, or last but not the least amongst the three, would be to also keep connected with the industry per se, which means have connections to some of the educational institutes. And I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, especially on the technology front, that are you talking to some of the professors? And this does not need to be a daily conversation, but once a month, once a quarter, if you just create a round table, invite some people in your space who are technology geeks to come and tell you where the future lies. Because then what's the trends in artificial intelligence? What's the trends in robotics? What's the trend in many of these new spaces will become common to you. And when you do these dialogues, even include some of the social entrepreneurs, because they may be able to come and give you a very different perspective, which you may not have thought. So I think those would be, but in essence, it's about staying connected and not becoming, if I may use the powerful word, but strong word, that not becoming arrogant, that now I know what the customer needs. At best, I can say I knew what the customer needed and I created a product and that became a successful. But I think the mindset has to shift from I know to I knew and I want to continue to know. And so I will stay humble, stay with my humility to keep talking to my customers.
Correct, sir. I think that is one thing that entrepreneurs need to be stay connected with the customers. So it is for them to know from the customers that what they need, the product, the changes, and everything. So one another question that from my end, you have mentioned about the importance of people, be it co-founder, be it team. But nowadays it is about the distributed teams, the remote working. It is all about the freelancing thing. So how do you feel these things, the changing landscape, even in the hiring part? Should the entrepreneur go with the freelancing distributed teams, or should he follow the old-fashioned thing of having a office space, having the workers in the inside?
I think it's a no-brainer, Vignesh. The world has, and I write as very often, and as some of the people on the call may know, both with BizBuzz and Hans India. And 2 years ago, I started a concept of what I call the co-COVID world. And essentially what I'm talking about in this co-COVID world is the world has seen some permanent changes. So it's not about COVID anymore. The world post-COVID has changed so much that it's never going back. And one of the things within that co-COVID world is the question you asked, that it is now going to be distributed working. It is now going to be the fact that people will work from home. We'll have to find a model which kind of satisfies both. And many organizations have already begun that 2 days a week, you need to come to office. And some organizations follow a rule that everyone comes to office on those 2 days. Many follow that you come for 2 days in a week, you choose your 2 days, so that there is a rotation by that sense. And if I am a 1,000 employee company, I don't need 1,000 workstation office, because I know during the 5 days of the week, these people will come. So 200 workstations is good enough for me by rotation. So I think this is going to continue. So as an entrepreneur, by and large, we'll have to see how do we live with that. Now, there are going to be specific niche areas where we need people to come to office. If it's a logistics kind of a work, I don't think I can sit at home and ensure that the truck is loaded and the inventory is managed. So some jobs will require your physical presence. But if I am in the coding business, then I can be sitting in Guntur and doing a very good quality code that I can give you, and I don't need to be sitting in a Hyderabad or in a Visakhapatnam or in a Bangalore. So I think that is here to stay. And as entrepreneurs, we'll have to learn to live with that. More importantly, learn to manage that. So I have to move as an entrepreneur from physical attendance-based system to more performance and impact-oriented business models. That I don't care where you work from, and I don't care whether you log in 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, because I don't have a method if you're working from home to track that. And the moment I start tracking that, I'll waste too much time on, finding methods to put a camera, put some IP-based models. Instead of that, I just move the model to saying, this is what I want you to deliver today. And I have done my work to know that this will typically take you 1 day to deliver. Now, if after that I can find an employee who can deliver this in 3/4 of the day, then it doesn't matter to me. I got the output I needed, I got the impact I needed, and I should. So I think that mindset, my personal opinion is this is here to stay. It is for us to now move our mindset to measurement of what we are doing rather than attendance and the physical office kind of a scenario.
Yes, correct, sir. It's all about the mindset change that the entrepreneurs have to develop in them. And it is also about the productive work hours that they need to get from the employees rather than having the fixed working hours. And there are some couple of questions from the attendees as well. I'll quickly read out for them. Why the failure rate is very high in startups? It is said that 70 to 80% of startups fail.
Actually, it's even higher. Thanks, Madhu, for that question. As an investor, we say that if 1 in 10 succeeds, then it's a very good ratio. If 2 in 10 succeed, then you are amongst the best investors in the world, because most haven't cracked that mode. So it's not just 70, 80, it could be 90, 95%. And by and large, the reason for that, Madhu, is that many people have not done enough research on the problem and have found a solution and then are trying to sell the solution without having understood the problem very well. Now, which means that when they start scaling, the challenges will start coming up. The second piece, I think, why startups fail is the scalability is a big challenge with most people. I have an idea. I talk to a small geography, small set of people in terms of numbers. And very often that small set is that I spoke to my family, my cousins, and my neighbors. And they all said that you have a fantastic idea. And we have to understand that mindset that, they will tell you that you have a good idea because they want to encourage you. They are doing what is their responsibility or their duty as they see it. And if you get carried away with that and say, no, all these people told me that my idea is fantastic, and I haven't spoken to a single right user, or I haven't spoken the economic value of that idea. For example, I use this example with many startups that if I was to come and ask the audience here today that I'm in the aviation business, I'm developing a new system of aircrafts which will take you from Hyderabad to Washington, DC in 4 hours flat. Would you be interested in my product? And I can bet that every single individual is going to raise their hand and say, yes, I am very much interested in this product. Now, I can get carried away at this stage, say I did market research. Everyone told me this is a fantastic product, and hence I went and created the product. And the product failed. The reason it failed because I forgot to ask people the question that this 4-hour journey from Hyderabad to Washington, DC on my aircraft will cost you 50 lakh rupees one way. And then the customer is going and saying, boss, 50 lakh rupees for a journey which I can normally take in less than 1 lakh rupees. I'm okay. I'll take the 12 hours or 14 hours that it takes. Now, if you have not done enough, I'm just using this as a exaggerated example, but like this, if I haven't done enough research, then that's where the failure rate is very, very high. And today, funding is also becoming a very fashionable thing to do. So a lot of startups are able to get the first round of funding from some family, some friends, because they also want to be labeled as an investor. एक 4-5 लाख रुपए देना है ना, तो I'll give that because I know somebody. I also have half-baked knowledge, and I'll give that, and I can now claim that I have invested in 5 startups or 10 startups. So it is a very tricky space, and the success rates are very, very low. But having said that, I think that is not a discouragement, because economic value for by that 1 or 2 startups which become successful kind of overrides the failure, if I may call it, that the others have. And the last perspective that I want to put here, and I think that is the most valuable perspective, is that the entrepreneur never fails. The idea fails. And that's a cultural problem that we have, especially in India, that we label the entrepreneurial failure on the entrepreneur. And if you go to the Silicon Valley, to Israel, or many other developing economic startup zones, they celebrate failure. Because failure means you tried something, it didn't work, you learned a lesson, and you moved on. Now, if we discourage the entrepreneur, then that learning that the entrepreneur has is dead. But if we encourage the entrepreneur and let the entrepreneur proceed further, the learning will be incorporated in his or her second entrepreneurial journey. And over a period of time, the success rates will keep on improving. So yes, it's a correct trend that 70-80% fail, but entrepreneurs don't fail. Any successful entrepreneur we look at today, whether it is these big organizations, Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or anyone, they didn't succeed in their first entrepreneurial job. They failed a few times, and then they got the lessons, and then they learned the lessons, and then they implemented those lessons. So don't take failure as a very bad thing. As long as you can learn a lesson from the failure, it's okay to fail.
So true, sir. So true that the failure needs to be celebrated here. And so is the cultural thing that we have here in India, which needs to be changed. And there is also one question on how to stay motivated in the entrepreneurship journey, as there will be many ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a question of developing a system around you. One is, it has 3 components to it. One is you yourself. Second is a safety net that you create around you. And the third is, how do you deal with the ecosystem or the whole larger world per se. So coming to yourself, I think you need to develop that system, that this isn't going to be an easy journey. This is a long haul journey. So you need to create the models for yourself. On the financial side, if you are jumping and starting a venture, be prepared that 12 to 18 months, you're not going to get any great money coming to you from your venture. So do you have the money stacked aside to run you or your family for 12 to 18 months? Do you have the mental preparation to say that, I'm not going to be engaged in multiple other things right now. I'm going to be focused only on this. And this is going to really work for me in the next 12 to 18 months. Just one second. So from a mental standpoint, you need to be prepared. And similarly, you need to have the mental strength, physical and mental strength, because that is going to be required. So a disciplined life. So those are all at the individual level that we talked about, that you need to be prepared. Now, when it comes to developing a safety net, it is about your family. It is about, I very strongly urge entrepreneurs to go down the path of a good mentor or a coach. Now, the difference between a US and an India is 1 in 3 entrepreneurs in US works with a coach, whereas that ratio in India is probably 1 in 300. And I think that because here's someone who is non-judgmental and who will help you and show you the mirror. And last but not the least is to deal with the outside world. figure out whose words are important. Your customers, very important. But some others who are just going to be throwing stones at you, you need to be able to have that thick skin to say, I will listen to it, I will absorb what I need to absorb, and the rest I will just not get hassled. Because that journey is going to be lots of people calling you names, lots of people being jealous of your success, lots of people wanting to label you as a failure. So the first small thing that you make a mistake, they will jump on it and say, I told you so, that you can't succeed. You are not good. You're a good for nothing fellow. You should have done a job. So all of that is going to happen. So I think it's a combination of how well are you prepared, what's your safety net, and how do you deal with the larger ecosystem of people who are going to be throwing stones at you.
Correct, correct. Then there is one more interesting question from Mr. Debasis. Has the level of disruption that is going to be created by AI-based products like ChatGPT has been fully understood by now?
I don't think so, Devashish. I think we are still grappling with the challenges that ChatGPT poses, both positively and negatively. And I think it will take us a little while to really understand the full potential or the full risk of a platform like ChatGPT. For example, in the education space, I think it's going to be doing both. The opportunities that the students are going to have so much knowledge which was never available. If you do a search on Google versus you do a question on Chat GPT, I think if you experience it yourself, you'll know the world of difference between the two. But the difference is that in Google, this is verified information. In Chat GPT, this is just information that is going to be thrown up to you, and the validation of that is left to you. Meaning they are not taking ownership of any of the data that's coming to you, because they're saying it's just artificial intelligence. What's available as a machine learning tool, somewhere I'm just throwing that to you. If I heard, for example, let's say Taj Mahal, now it can tell me about Taj Mahal, the monument, or it can tell me about Taj Mahal, the South Indian restaurant. So depending on what's the question I ask, ChatGPT will give me an answer. So I don't think the opportunities have fully been understood, Devashish. We are still struggling to understand that. All I will say is that it is going to disrupt the world, especially the world of knowledge and education. Those two industries, anyone who was working in the knowledge industry of saying that, we will help you write white papers, we'll help you gather a lot of research. And I think market research, a lot of the secondary research, especially, is going to be transformed with ChatGPT. A lot of information is going to be changed drastically. One trend we are already seeing, especially for people like me who write articles, who spend, to write a 500-word article, it takes me 4 to 6 hours. Now, somebody can sit on ChatGPT and write an article in 4 to 6 minutes. Because all I have to do is tell the topic, tell some subtopics, and ChatGPT way. And they can write a personalized poem for my wife. So writing an article is a cakewalk. So long answer, Devashish, but the short of it is, I don't think the full implications or the level of disruption, as you called it, has been understood. I don't think so. I think it will take some more time for us to understand that. And even when we say we have understood, I think the potential or power of a platform like ChatGPT is they will still surprise us and say, okay, you thought you understood me. Here are 5 new elements because it's a machine learning tool, right? As you and me speak, there may be a million people right now interacting with that platform and seeking information, but in the process of seeking information, feeding information. And all of that is getting churned and coming back to us in a phenomenal and speed is of essence manner there.
Thank you, Devashish, for this question. And one question from Mr. Murali. Don't you think good understanding of marketing analysis is essential, not just ideas and sales?
Absolutely, Murli. And I talked about that to me, the first most important thing that I kind of look at in a founder is how well has the founder understood the problem, understood the customer, understood the solution, and how the solution fits the customer's need. All of this is about research, and it's not about the idea. I keep saying that many people have this wrong notion that the success of startup is dependent on the idea. And my response to that is the idea, whatever idea you have, at least 200 other people have the same idea. So it's no longer about the idea. Unless you are in a pharmaceutical research space and you've created a new formula for a drug, then that's a unique idea you have. Or you are in the, in some of these mathematical models or aeronautical kind of spaces where you develop something unique. Now, Uber or an Ola or a hyper-local market or any of these ideas are not unique to you. Idea is got nothing about it. It is all about execution. It is all about translating that idea into business. And that will mean you have to make sure the customer needs are fulfilled, for which you need to know what the customer needs are, for which you need to stay connected with that, because the world is changing, your customer is changing, and your competitors are changing. So if you are not connected to them, then your idea may be relevant 6 years ago or 6 months ago, but may have become irrelevant in the last few months. All of people who were working very heavily on automobile industry, for example, a few years ago, would have been rudely shocked when EVs came into play. Overnight, suddenly your markets are going to get disrupted with these cheaper vehicles which are going to come. Of course, it's going to take some time to stabilize, but it's disrupted that space, and like that in many other industries. So I think it is what you're saying, Murli, is correct. It is about staying connected to the market, which is important. I won't just call it marketing analysis. I think it is more you staying connected to your customers, to your employees, and to your competition. And in that, I want to emphasize that we sometimes say only customers, but we have to remember that as the business grows, you actually don't deliver your product or service. It is actually your employees who are doing it. So sometimes, and there are debates on this, that there are enough books also saying employee comes first. And there is another school which says customer is the king. Now, it is between the customer and the employee that you need to make sure that both are fully engaged in your business, because if you disengage with either of these two population, you're likely to die.
I think all the questions have been answered. Any more questions in the Q&A section?
I see some anonymous questions, or one more at least, saying how funding landscape is going to change. And I briefly talked about it in my presentation, that I think new emerging models are appearing, crowdfunding or, revenue-based financing, or, so we have to be aware of that. But the standard model of funding is also going to change. A lot of times people are saying today, and you may have read or heard, that there is going to be a challenge for the next 1 or 2 years for funding. I personally don't think so. I am personally a lot more optimistic, because the world wealth creation has not stopped, and the wealth is going to come towards startups. What may happen is that this absurd method of funding that was happening in the last 2-3 years, where you could go and talk about footfalls or heavy burns and still get funding, that may stop. I think investors are now going to be asking a lot more tougher questions, is going to be focusing on unit economics, is going to be focusing on your EBITDAs and your operating margins. So those questions will become tougher. So you have to be better prepared to be able to go and seek that funding from the investors. But I am personally very optimistic that I think money is going to be available, because good money is there, and they need good startups. Now, are you a good startup is the key question you need to find an answer to. But the models are also evolving: debt-based financing, future revenue-based financing, crowd-based financing. A lot of new models will emerge. I know of a startup which does purely customer, they have adopted the real estate model. So they will take the money from you for the product and then manufacture the product. So you are actually paying for creating your product. And if I can get 1 million such users for that product, and if that product costs X rupees, I've got 1 million X of revenue, which I've not raised my cap table. I have not touched anything at all. And my margin of whatever, 40%, 50% in that money is also protected, which the customer has paid me upfront. So it's changing. Keep check on that, and keep listening to some of the investors and some of these conversations that are happening around this space.
Funding is the only area which startups feel as a challenge or a barrier for them, and they look for different ways of funding for their startups. And I feel, sir, this insights that you have given in different models, the crowdfunding, the alternative funding that you have mentioned in your PPTs as well. I feel the participants should take a look of these things. And
if your model, the last piece on this funding piece is, if your model is good, I think the time has come for you to create a model where investors chase you. And believe me, they will chase you. If you have created meaning if you're having some investors reaching out to you and talking to you, you should know that your business is doing well. So, and if you keep chasing an investor when you're not fully ready, you're actually doing more damage to yourself. So focus on your business. And again, a cliche I use is, valuation is not as important as value creation is. So focus on value creation. Valuation will happen. And if valuation happens, the investors will come to you like a honeybee, because they have to go after where they can get a better return. And if you have created value creation model, then they will come to you because the valuation will happen. So focus on value creation. Don't get hyped by all this news that you keep reading or hearing every day. Isko 5 million ka valuation mil gaya, usko 100 million ka valuation mil gaya. Meaning some of these large companies who've seen these big valuations, we are seeing what's happening to them. So don't get carried away by them. Stay focused on value creation. Valuation will happen, investors will come.
Very aptly said about the current condition of valuations of different startups. And I think we have answered all the questions from the attendees.
Yes.
I think we can end the Q&A session. And we like to express our heartfelt thanks for accepting our invitation, for being a part of this webinar. And we look forward for many such webinars from you as well, sir. And thank you so much once again for being part of it. And we appreciate the kind of efforts that you have put in to prepare this presentation. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vignesh. Thank you, Akhilesh. Thank you to the entire team at World Trade Center, Hans India, BizBus, for inviting me to share my thoughts, and more than happy to stay connected and see what further service can I offer to the entrepreneurial world, because that's the sea I swim in. So, if the sea is becoming a better sea, then I will become a better fish who's swimming in that. So I'm more than happy to contribute in whatever manner I can. So thank you for engaging me today, and more than happy to stay connected and help in whatever manner I can. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Looking forward to connect.
I wish all of you a fantastic entrepreneurial journey ahead. Go ahead, become an entrepreneur, change the world, create millions of jobs, and create billions of valuation for yourself and for the people engaged with you.
And thanks to all the attendees for participating in this session and being active participants by posting your questions. And we would be sharing the recorded sessions with everyone over the mail. And we also request you to send any questions to info@wtcshamshabad.org. And if you have any specific topics that you feel that we need to conduct the webinar, please do write us to the mail at info@wtcshamshabad.org. And we look forward to your participations in the future webinars as well. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.